Hi, I'm Jo from J.H.Leather, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to create this awesome biker wallet. So the patterns for this biker wallet are going to be available as both a downloadable PDF pattern pack and an acrylic template set, both of which can be purchased on my website jhleather.co.uk, or you can head to the links in the description. What we're going to do first is print out our pattern pieces to 100% or actual size. Now each of the patterns on the website do have a key available on the first page, so you can check the sizes are correct once you have printed. What we're going to do then is roughly cut out the patterns, and then we are going to reinforce them onto some card, assembling our outer wallet piece together whilst we do so. What we can do then is cut out our patterns nice and accurately. So once we have our patterns together, we can grab our leather. Now, links in the description for this leather that I used, and more information can be found in the information pack with the patterns. So I'm using a mock croc effect leather here, so I want that repeated pattern in the center of my wallet, so that is nice and even on both sides. What I'm then going to do is draw around that, and because this is a textured hide, what I'm going to do is actually use a silver pen, because that is much more easy for me to see. I can then draw around the rest of my patterns in a similar manner, and then I'm going to cut them out. So I like to use a rotary knife for any straight edges along with my safety ruler, and then for the corners what I'm going to do is use my head knife, and I'm going to cut those nice and round using the nibble method that you have seen in a lot of my videos, where the knife stays where it is and we're going to move the leather around, taking a little bit off at a time. Once we've done that, we can then start to do some edging. So we're going to edge across the top of the T-slots on both the grain and flesh side, and on the grain and flesh on the top edge of our front pocket as well. On our coin pocket, what we're going to do is edge all the way around that nice grain side. And then on the flesh side, what we're going to do is we're going to edge on that short edge, and then using our patterns, we're going to draw on using the maker's marks on the pattern where we can edge. So we're going to draw those onto the side, and again, I'm using a silver pen here. And then we can edge up and around the outer edge of our flap. We are then going to repeat this method on our outer wallet, going all the way around the grain side. And then using our pattern, marking on where we can edge up and around the flap. And edging around there also. We can then stain, polish and crease any of the edges that we have just done the edging on. And I also like to add my edge burnishing gum here, because it's easier to do this now than when some of these pieces have been assembled. Now my crease I'm going to heat up, and it is set to around 1.5 millimeters. Next, what we're going to do is do some skiving on our T-slots, just to remove any bulk in this area for when we come to assemble our pockets together. So what we're going to do is remove the thickness from the bottom and along those two slanted sides. Now I am using a mini paring knife for this, because I find that is easiest for me to use. However, you can do this with a knife or with a French shave. And we're going to skive that down to nothing where we can. It is a bit harder to do that up as we get closer to the T-slots, but we just want to make this a nice smooth transition so we reduce bulk in the overall wallet once it is together. Now what we're going to do is draw on our stitch line onto the bottom of our T-slot, and you can do that using the pattern. We can then put where our T-slots are going to sit onto our backing piece, and again using the patterns we can mark where that's going to be, and then using a pen we can then mark that in so it's more clear for us to see. Now what we're going to do is to start to assemble. So this is the glue that I'm using, and if you are interested, there is an affiliate link in the description where you can grab yourself one of these awesome glue pens. And what we're going to do is we're going to start by sticking the top T-slot in first. So we're going to put glue on both the backing piece and onto the back of the T-slot itself. And then when it's tacky, we can stick the two pieces together. And now that's in, what we can do is using our stitch marker, we can stitch mark along that stitch line. Now we want one tooth over the edge so we can get our stitches to sit over the edge of that T-slot as well. And you can stitch mark this all the way through because it's going to be quite thin at this point. What we can do is then stitch this. So I am using a 3.38mm pricky line, which is quite small. So what I'm going to do here is actually skip a stitch mark. So I've got long stitches along this bit. Now the reason for that is because we are not actually going to see that. And with the longer stitches, it is a bit more secure on this piece of leather and it's not going to sort of perforate or tear at any point. Once we stitched it, we can then trim the threads, and then using a zapper or a lighter, if you are using a man-made thread, you can just zap the ends, or if you're using linen, then you can use a little bit of glue. And then we're going to repeat that exact same process for the next card slot. And the final thing we're going to do on this bit is to attach our front pocket. So we're going to apply glue to that, and then when it's tacky, we can stick that onto the rest of our card slots. Once that front pocket has been stuck on, we can transfer some marks from our patterns. So we're going to mark that trim line on the right hand side, as well as the stitching guidelines. Now again, using a silver pen so I can see it more easy, I'm going to draw a line between those two dots for the stitch line. And then I'm going to follow that with my stitch marker. Now we're going to want one tooth over that top edge of the top T-slot so that we can secure that down when we are stitching. Once we have finished doing our stitch marking, we can then stitch this. So I'm going to start with 2 back stitches because I'm going to finish with 1.5, and that way both ends of this stitch line are going to match. Now if you are new to leathercraft or have some issues with your stitching, I have just released a video all about beginner stitching mistakes and how to avoid them, and I shall link that at the end of this video as well as in the description for you to go and check out if you need some helpful pointers. Once we've finished our stitching, we can then trim the edge from the marks we marked on earlier, and then using our edge tool, we can edge along the grain and flesh side of that cut edge. We can now move on to starting to assemble our coin pocket. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by marking on where our popper is going to sit. And then using an appropriate sized hole punch, we can punch the holes for that. And then we are able to fit the popper on. And once we've done that, we can apply our glue to the edges, and then once tacky, we can stick that down. Now we want to apply some pressure along that bottom folded edge, and we can do that with our thumb, and we can also then go over it with either a hammer or a roller just to get those edges nice and stuck down. We can then use our pattern to mark on where our stitch line is going to end, and then we can mark onto the pocket backing where the coin pocket is actually going to sit, and we can draw that in. And then what we can do is rough up the area where that coin pocket is going to be stuck. And we can do the same on the back of the actual coin pocket, remembering not to get too close to either edge. And then we can apply glue all over this area. And once it's tacky, stick the two together, making sure the pocket is in line. We can now use our dividers and draw in that stitch line, and then follow that with our chosen stitch marker. Remembering to have one tooth over that top edge to secure the top of the pocket down where it meets the flap. Once we've done that, we can then get to stitching this on, again starting with 2 back stitches and finishing with 1.5 back stitches. Once we have stitched this in, we can do some finishing touches on these 2 assembled card pockets. So what we're going to do is we're going to stain, polish and crease the internal facing edges of both the card slots and the coin pocket, and apply some burnishing gum here as well. And once we've done that, we can start to assemble the inner wallet. So what we're going to do is mark on where those internal pockets are going to sit on that inner wallet piece, and just mark that. And we can use that now as our glue guide. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to rough the edges up first so our glue sticks nicely, and then we can glue around these 2 parts of the wallet and also on the back of the 2 card pockets that are going to be sitting into it. Once the glue has gone tacky, we can then stick everything together. Once everything is in place, what we can do is use a hammer or a roller just around those glued edges, just to make sure that they are nice and stuck down. And then using our pattern, we can mark on our stitch line. So we want this in line with the non-cut edge, so the outer edge, because we have trimmed the inner one. We can mark on that point where our stitching stops. Now on the side with the coin pocket, it is a little bit awkward. So what we're going to do is flip that upside down and mark on the edge where that will be, because we're going to set our dividers now and draw in that line, and we know where it's going to finish. Once we've got our stitch line on, you guessed it, we can do our stitch marking. So what I want is 1 tooth over the edge on the inner side, so we can secure the pockets down, and you can stitch mark all the way through. What we can do then is do our stitching, starting with 2 back stitches and finishing with 1.5 back stitches. We can then add the trim line onto our inner wallet, and we can mark that all the way around with our divider. And once that is in, we can follow that line with our rotary cutter, trimming down the excess. Now at this point we have got quite a few layers of leather going on, so what I tend to do is take a few goes at actually cutting this off rather than doing it in one fell swoop, where I'm at risk of the ruler wobbling out of the way due to the pressure that I'm putting on it. And this safety ruler is ideal for this because you can cut even around the awkward parts like the coin pocket, because you can put the back of the ruler on top of the actual coin pocket and still have a nice straight edge to cut against. Once we have our wallet trimmed down, we can do some finishing touches to this. So what we're going to do is edge all the way around the nice grain side. And then we can flip that over, and on the flesh side we're going to edge across the very top edge where our stitching is only. We can then apply some stain to these edges and polish that in, and follow that with our burnishing gum, and again polish that in before going around the whole of this part of the wallet with our creasing iron and giving ourselves a nice crease line. We can now start to do some more work on our outer wallet. So what we're going to do is transfer all the maker's marks onto our leather. So that's going to be the 4 popper points, the eyelet hole, as well as where the stitching is going to be. And once we've got that marked in, we can then draw in our stitch line using a ruler for that one straight edge where the flap is, and using some dividers around the rest of it. And the stitch line is 3mm or 1/8 of an inch, and you can check that on your patterns. We can then punch all the holes for our poppers. And then we can get them fitted into our wallet. Once we've done that, what we can do is punch our hole for the eyelet and then fit that as well. And links to all the fittings that I have used and information on what sizes they are is also included in the information pack with the patterns and acrylics. Once you have your eyelet fitted, what we can do is then go on and do some gluing. So at this point, I've gone ahead and marked in where my glue needs to go from the patterns. And once I know that, I can then glue around those edges, as well as on the internal wallet. And then when tacky, I can stick them together. Now what I'm going to do is start with the straight edge. So for me, this is going to be the edge where the coin pocket is sitting, and get that nicely lined up and then stick that down. I can then fold the wallet over to the point where I know it needs to be, because I've marked that in from the patterns, and then again stick this side of the wallet down. Now to save yourself the hassle at this point, what you could do is actually stitch mark this before you would put the internal parts of your wallet in. However, I didn't think that far ahead, so for me this is going to be a bit awkward. So what we're going to do is actually have this over the edge of our desk and raise it up a little bit using that card, so we can push the edge of our wallet onto it, making it nice and flat, so we're not going to be stitch marking on an angle. Once we have stitch marked around the whole of our wallet, what we can do is then stitch. Now I am using an awl for this because I didn't stitch mark all the way through, and what I'm going to do is start with 2 back stitches and do 1 stitch over the top edge, and that's going to secure all the layers of our wallet down. And once we've done our stitch over the edge, we can continue stitching all the way around our wallet. And when we get to the end of this, we're going to do 1.5 back stitches. And we can then repeat that on the other side of our wallet, remembering to do our stitch over the edge so it matches our original side, and then do our back stitching. Now hopefully your wallet is going to be looking a little bit like this, and we can do our finishing touches. So what I'm going to do is sand the edges. Now I have a sanding machine for this, however you can do this by hand, and we just want to get those edges nice and level. Once we've done that, we can nick the corners ever so slightly on that squared end. Now because I use a very tiny edge tool, and I'm going to have to go around it again where I've done my edging to get that edge back in and remove the sharpness from the end of the leather. Once I've done that, I can then go around with my stain and restain my entire wallet, and then polish it and follow that with my burnishing gum and polish that in as well. You can also re-crease at this point if you would like to. Now the final step is to use our bone folder and remove any excess glue from inside any of those pockets. We're going to push that in and around the stitching edge to remove that excess glue, and this is going to help our cards fit nicely in their pockets. Once you've done that, you can fit your cards. And now in this wallet, what I have actually designed this coin pocket as is not only does it fit an array of coins in it, you can also fit additional cards that are credit card size. So if you have business cards that are that size, you can stick them in there, or if you've got any extra credit cards that you would rather have in there rather than in the pockets behind, you can fit them there also. And then the final step is to grab our chain and clip that on through our eyelet. So that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed watching, and if you did, you might also enjoy